Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. In my previous video, we covered the OSI model till the network layer. If you are new to the channel, please watch my previous video. Okay? In today's video, we are going to discuss other layers and also we quickly recap how our requests travel across the layers. This is going to be very interesting. Please make sure that watch the video till the end. As we discussed in the previous video, we are covering with an example of accessing a website that is hosted in another country. To access that website, what we have done? We just built one physical path from one source to destination by using different physical cables. Then we built that data link layer to reach our data safely, and we framed it and we added physical address such as MAC address, and also we checked for errors. Then we move to the network layer. In the network layer, what we have done? We have added the IP address to the request and also we found the best path to reach the destination. Now here the question, how do we make sure that the particular data actually arrives correctly without missing anything? That's where we need the transport layer. What is transport layer? Transport layer is the heart of the OSI. Why do we say it's the heart of the OSI? The reason is, whatever data you are sending, the transport layer makes sure that the data reaches safely and accurately, and in order from one device to another device without any loss. It gives you guarantee. That's why we say the transport layer is the heart of the OSI. Let's see the key functions of the transport layer. The first one is segmentation and reassemble. Once the transport layer takes the data, it's break into small pieces. The small pieces we call segments. If you remember, in every layer, we call the data in different terminology. In physical layer, that is raw bits. In data link layer, we call it as a frames. In network layer, we call it as a packets. Here, we call it as a segments. You may have a question. Why we are breaking the data? The reason is, we cannot send all the data at once over a network. And also, if you break down the data and any segment is lost, you don't need to send the entire data again. You can only resend the data particular segment. When we segment the data, we give each sequence number. This make it easy put the segments back in the order. So we divide the data into small chunks called segments and we provide the sequence for each piece. Then we send it to the receiver. Once the receiver gets the data, by seeing the sequence number, he will reassemble the data and receive it correctly. So this is one of the important function of the transport layer. Okay, next move on to the multiplexing and demultiplexing. What is multiplexing? At the sender side, it combines all the applications and send them over a single connection. This is called multiplexing. For better understanding, imagine you open your laptop. Okay, you use Google, you use YouTube, and you open a WhatsApp at the same time. Okay, so what multiplexer does at the transport layer? It is combine all the data, send it to the receiver over a single network connection. Instead of making separate connection for each application, it will send them over a single connection. That is called multiplexing. Okay, now let's discuss demultiplexing. What is demultiplex at the receiver side? Once the data is received, it makes sure that the data goes to the respective application. Taking the same example, if we send the data like YouTube data, Google data and WhatsApp data, once the receiver gets the data at the transport layer, it will distribute the YouTube data to YouTube, WhatsApp data to WhatsApp and Google data to Google. So this is how multiplexing and demultiplexing work. So this is also one of the function TCP. Okay, next move on to the other one, that is error control. What is error control? The transport layer also take care of the errors. So how does it handle error control? We all know that at the transport layer, we use two protocols. You might have heard the terms like TCP and UDP. In the TCP protocol, which is a reliable protocol. It has a different functions. Okay, it can detect errors and also it can detect duplicate packets and lost segments. We'll talk more about the TCP in detail where we cover the TCP IP protocol in another video. We will cover complete packet analysis. Okay, as of now, you need to understand when we use TCP, it takes care of error detection, duplication and packet loss. It makes sure that data doesn't have any errors. If we use UDP, okay, it won't take care of any of these things. Okay, we'll talk more about what TCP, what UDP and what is the difference between TCP and UDP in the future class. Okay, so this is one of the function. Then move to the final one, that is flow control and congestion control. First, let's understand what is flow control. Flow control makes sure that sender does not overrun the receiver. Okay, let's take general example and try to understand in better way. That is a general example. Okay, imagine you are talking to your friend and you are talking very fast, but your friend is unable to catch you. So what do? You slow down your pace and talk to him, right? In the same way, TCP uses sliding window concept that control how flow between the sender and receiver. So this is all about flow control. Now let's move on to the congestion control. What is congestion control? Congestion control makes sure to control the congestion network level. Okay, we all know that sometimes many users send their data at the same time. Obviously, network will be overloaded. If you keep sending the data at the same time, packet may be lost. Okay, for better understanding, let's take general example. Imagine you are traveling on the road and if there are no traffic signals, while many people are traveling at the same time, obviously road will get blocked, right? The same way, technically, the network gets overloaded. To overcome this, TCP uses different algorithms to handle this situation. We'll talk more about in the TCP IP protocol soon. And a lot of people get confused between flow control and congestion control in the transport layer. If we put in simple way, flow control is the between the two devices, between the sender and receiver, while congestion control is the network layer. Okay, so this is all about the transport layer. Okay, now we have to say thanks to the transport layer. Your request will arrive at the web server correctly and reliably. Ready for the next step. Okay, now we are going to discuss other layers. Basically, this layer actually decides how the content will be displayed on your laptop. So now we have reached the session layer. What is session layer? Session layer is the fifth layer of the OSI model. It is used to establish a session, maintains it and terminates the session between the sender and receiver. Okay, think like a session layer as a meeting organizer or coordinator for communication between your device and the server. It establishes session, basically conversation between a laptop and website server. Okay, back to our project where we are requesting website that is hosted in another country. Now we have done everything. We built a physical path, we built a data link layer and we built a network layer to find the best path. We also built a transport layer. So whatever the data you're sending, it makes sure the data goes safely. Now what does the session layer do here? Your browser asks the server to start a session. Then server acknowledges and open a logical connection, like a shaking hands before starting a conversation. As you browse the website, the session keeps track of your interaction. For example, you open a website and log in with your credentials, or you are filling a form. If the session time out or you log out, the session time ensures that the connection closed properly. So this is all about the session layers. Let's see the functions of the session layer. The first one is session establishment. It's very simple. It starts the communication between the sender and receiver. Then once the session is started, it makes sure that session stays alive when the data is being exchanged, right? Then session termination. Once you have completed your task on server, it's end the session to avoid leaving any connection open. Okay, the next one is synchronization. What is synchronization? it uses some checkpoints to help resume a session if there is a failure. For example, if your network drops for a seconds, the session layer can resume from the last checkpoint instead of starting it over. Right? So this is all about the session layer. So the session layer makes sure that your laptop and server talk to each other properly and maintain the conversation to handle interruption. Okay? Alright. Now we have reached to the other layer, that is called presentation layer. That is the sixth layer of the OSI model. What is presentation layer? The presentation layer is the sixth layer of the OSI model. It acts as a translator between the application layer and lower layers. Okay? For better understanding, let's take simple example. Imagine you are attending one meeting. People are joining from the different countries and you are not understanding their language. So what do? You ask someone who can translate that language, right? The same way, the presentation layer does the same for data. For better understanding, let's see the functions of the transport layer. The first one is translator. Okay? So the translator changes the data from one format to another format. So both sender and receiver can understand it. Let's take an example. You are sending an image in the JPEG format. The presentation layer makes sure that your browser can understand and display it correctly. Okay? The next one is encryption and decryption. What is encryption and decryption? Encryption converts your data, some plain text into different format that is cannot read by attackers. Okay? The presentation layer use some cryptographic protocol such as TLS, SSL to encrypt the data to prevent from the attackers. So once the receiver receives the data in the form of unreadable format, then they use decryption to convert it back and readable format. We will talk a lot about encryption and decryption in the cryptography section. Okay? So the next one is compression and decompression. When we use compression and decompression, so if the data is large, the presentation layer compresses it to make it to transmitter faster. So once the receiver gets the data, then it is decompressed so the receiver can see it properly. So these are the main functions of the presentation layer. So this is how your data get prepared and presented in a browser. So when you visit a website, this layer ensures that images, text and videos are displayed correctly and your sensitive information is encrypted while traveling across the network. Okay, so this is all about the presentation layer. Finally, we have reached the application layer. What is the application layer? Let's look at the definition of the application layer. Application layer is the seventh and topmost layer of the OSI model. In this layer, the user can interact directly, which means it acts as an interface between the user and other applications such as Gmail, web browser, etc. For better understanding, let's see the functions of the application layer. The first one is providing services to the applications, which means it offers network services to the application where the user can directly interact. For example, opening a Gmail, opening a web browser or any other application. Okay, then move to the next one, that is resource sharing and remote access, which means it allows the users to share the information and also they can access devices remotely using different protocols. Typically we use SSH protocol. Okay, the final one is the protocol support. We all know that application layer use many protocols such as DNS, HTTP, HTTPS, etc. Don't worry, we will talk more about the protocols in the TCP IP protocol suite. In simple terms, if we can say, application layer is where the user can interact directly with the network and share file and access resources. So when you visit a website, this layer creates a request and when the server responds, It's deliver the content you see on your screen. Okay, so this is all about the application layer and all the layers and their functions. Okay, what we will do now? We will quickly recap using our example how our request passes through all the layers. It will give you the summary of all the layers. Here you also need to understand very interesting topic, that is encapsulation and decapsulation. Okay, we will stick with the same example where we are accessing a website that is hosted in the another country. What we have done so far? Now we have built all the layers. Okay, let's quickly recap each request processed in each layer by understanding encapsulation and decapsulation. Okay, so now you are open your laptop. You can see there are many applications, which means we are at the application layer. Okay, to access that website, you need one browser application, right? So you open your browser and you type the URL. Now the browser creates the message and send it to the next layer, which is presentation layer. As soon as the present layer receives the data, it translates the data, encrypt it from readable form to non-readable format, and also it's compress the data with the size is large. Okay, so once the presentation layer handle all these things, then the data move to the next layer, that is session layer. What does the session layer do here? It set up and maintains the session between the device and the server. It establishes the session, maintains it while the communication is active, and terminates the session once it is done. Okay, so now we move to the important layer, that is transport layer. As soon as the data reaches the transport layer, the data is broken into segments. The segments are added into ensure reliable delivery and also handle error detection, flow control and reliability. Once all this is done, then the data move to the next layer. As soon as the network layer receives the data, it's add the source and destination IP address to the from packets and find the best path to send the data. Once the best path is found, then the data move to the which layer? Data link layer. When the data link layer receives the data, it's flowing the packet, it's add the physical address such as MAC address and deliver it to the local network. And also it checks for errors to ensure reliable delivery. Okay. Finally, the data reaches at the physical layer. Once the physical layer receives the data, which converts the data into electric signals, light or radio waves for transmission. The physical transmits the actual bits across the medium to the receiver. So this process of adding the data at each layer is called encapsulation. Each layer adding something to the data. Okay. Now once the data is received by the server through the physical medium, then decapsulation begins. What is decapsulation? It is the process of peeling off the extra information which were added in the encapsulation. Now we receive the data at physical layers. The physical layer receives the raw signals and then convert back into bits. Okay. Then the data layer checks for the errors and remove the frames. Then the network layer reads the IP address and take the data information. Once the transport layer has reassembled the data, the session layer ensures that communication is still active. Remember, on the sender side, we initiated a session. Now the session is still active. Next, the presentation layer decrypt and decompress the data so it can read properly. Finally, we move to the application layer on the server side. Once the server receives the original message, that process your request and respond to the sender. So this is complete flow from sender to receiver. Finally, we have achieved our goal accessing the website. This is all about the OSI model. I hope you now have a complete idea about it. And this is very important. Even if you skipped any topic or did not understand something, I highly recommend you watch the video again, get clarity on the OSI model. Thank you for watching my video. We will come back with another interesting topic in the next video. Until then, take care. Bye bye.